Lila had never imagined her life would end up in chains on a distant star system. She had grown up in a small village on her home planet, surrounded by green forests and crystal-clear rivers. Her people lived peacefully, valuing knowledge, art, and community. Lila loved exploring the forests and listening to the stories of the elders. She dreamed of visiting other worlds, seeing different cultures, and meeting beings from faraway places. But that dream was shattered when the slavers attacked her village. The attack was sudden and merciless. The slavers were ruthless, capturing everyone they could find. Lila tried to hide in the trees, but they were too fast. One of them grabbed her and dragged her into a ship. The air was thick with smoke and fear. Lila's heart pounded and she fought with all her strength, but it was no use. She was chained and thrown into a small dark cage. The walls were cold, metallic, and unyielding. She could hear the cries of others in the adjacent cages, some weak, some defiant, and some silent with despair. She realized then that she was not just a prisoner. She was a commodity. Days passed in a blur. The slavers provided little food and water. The chains that bound her were heavy, digging into her skin and leaving marks that would take weeks to heal. Every day she was moved to different sections of the ship, where alien buyers came to inspect her and the other captives. The buyers' eyes were cold and calculating, measuring her worth as if she were an object. Lila tried to hold on to her dignity, but the harsh treatment wore her down. She began to feel invisible, as if her life had no value. She whispered to herself in the quiet moments, repeating her name, trying to remember that she was a person, not just a slave. Despite the suffering, Lila never gave up hope. She remembered the stories her grandmother told her about heroes who defied impossible odds. She imagined that one day someone would come to save her. She did not know who it would be or when it would happen, but the thought of freedom kept her heart beating. She learned to be silent, careful not to attract too much attention and to move only when necessary. Every step had to be calculated. Every word had to be chosen. She became a shadow within the cage, observing the slavers and their routines, waiting for an opportunity. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, a human trader named Jack was on a mission of his own. Jack had grown up on Earth, hearing stories of distant worlds and the beings who lived there. From a young age, he was fascinated by tales of courage, justice, and kindness. He trained as a trader and pilot, learning the skills needed to travel across dangerous star systems. Jack had a reputation among humans and other species for fairness and honesty. He cared deeply about justice, often putting himself at risk to help those who could not help themselves. When he heard rumors of a market where beings were captured and sold, he knew he had to see it for himself. The market was worse than Jack had imagined. Ships from various systems gathered in a huge hangar, selling creatures from different planets. He saw beings of all shapes and sizes, many weak, many fearful, all treated as property. Jack felt a tight knot in his chest. He could not understand how anyone could treat another living being this way. He moved cautiously, observing the slavers, listening to their negotiations and watching the captives. Then he saw her. Lila's eyes met his from across the cage. There was something in them that stopped him, something quiet yet strong, a spark of defiance amidst despair. He felt a connection he could not explain. Jack approached the slavers, asking questions about her. They laughed, thinking he was merely curious or playing a game. But Jack's questions were precise, his tone firm. He wanted to know her name, her origin, and her condition. The slavers were reluctant, but they could not ignore his persistence. Lila, seeing a human show concern, felt a glimmer of hope. She did not fully trust it yet, but it was a start. Jack noticed the marks on her arms and legs, the signs of harsh treatment. He knew he could not leave her here. Negotiations began, tense and slow. The slavers demanded a high price, hoping to make a profit from Jack's apparent interest. Jack was calm but determined. He offered a fair sum, calculated to meet their greed but also to reflect the value of a life. The slavers hesitated, confused by his insistence and by the way he spoke about her as a being, not a commodity. After hours of bargaining, they agreed to release her. Jack handed over the payment, and the chains that had bound Lila for weeks were unlocked. The moment the chains fell away, Lila felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She could move freely, stretch her limbs, and breathe deeply. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, she could look around without fear. Jack handed her clothes, clean and soft, and offered water and food. She drank eagerly, savoring each sip. Jack knelt down, speaking gently. introducing himself and asking her name. Lila whispered it, almost afraid to say it aloud, and Jack smiled, acknowledging her existence, her life. As they left the market, Jack ensured she was safe on his ship. The journey was long and Lila was cautious, still unsure of the world outside the cages. Jack understood and gave her space, speaking softly and sharing stories to ease her fear. They talked about their worlds, their families, and their dreams. Lila learned about Earth and human colonies, and Jack learned about her planet and culture. The conversation was slow at first, tentative, but trust grew with every shared story. Danger was not far behind. The slavers realized she was gone and sent bounty hunters to retrieve her. Jack's experience as a pilot and trader was put to the test. He navigated through asteroid fields, used clever tricks to evade scanners, and planned escape routes meticulously. Lila, despite her fear, discovered courage she never knew she had. She helped with navigation and strategy, proving her intelligence and adaptability. Jack began to see her as a true partner, not just a rescued captive. As the stars streaked past their ship, Lila reflected on the journey. She had been treated like dirt, forced into chains and left with nothing but despair. But now, with Jack's help, she was free. She was beginning to understand what freedom felt like, control over her own body, her own choices, and her own destiny. Jack, in turn, was inspired by her resilience and the quiet strength she carried despite the suffering she had endured. Together, they formed a bond that was more than simple gratitude. It was respect, trust, and the start of a deep friendship. The journey to a safe colony would take weeks, and along the way, Lila faced challenges she had never imagined. She had to learn to trust again, to believe in kindness, and to take small steps toward independence. Jack encouraged her, guiding her but never forcing her. Slowly, she began to regain confidence in her abilities. She learned to handle the ship's controls, to understand maps and routes, and to communicate effectively with Jack. Every small achievement built her sense of self-worth, erasing the shadows of captivity bit by bit. At night, Lila would look out at the vast galaxy, filled with stars and possibilities. She imagined visiting the planets she had only dreamed of, meeting other beings and building a life where she was respected and valued. Jack would sometimes sit beside her, sharing stories of humans he had met, battles he had survived, and places he had seen. These stories were not just entertainment. They were lessons in resilience, courage, and hope. Lila absorbed each one, letting them guide her as she navigated her new life. By the time they reached the outskirts of the colony, Lila had transformed. She was still cautious, still aware of dangers, but she was no longer the same scared girl who had been chained in the dark. She had begun to understand her own strength and the power of human kindness. Jack was proud of her progress and felt a deep respect for her intelligence and spirit. The bond they shared was unspoken but strong, built on shared experiences, trust, and mutual care. As the colony came into view, Lila felt a mix of anticipation and nervousness. She was about to step into a new world, one that was safe and welcoming but also unknown. Jack reassured her, explaining that she could take her time, learn, and find her place. Lila took a deep breath, feeling the weight of chains lifted not only from her body but from her mind and spirit. She was free, and for the first time in her life she could choose her path. And as she stepped onto solid ground, she felt hope bloom within her, a hope that would guide her in the days to come. The colony was unlike anything Lila had ever seen. Tall structures rose above the ground, shimmering with metallic light. People from many different worlds walked through the streets, some humanoid, some entirely alien. For Lila, the first moments on solid ground were overwhelming. She could feel the freedom under her feet, smell the fresh air, and hear voices without the constant clanging of chains. Jack walked beside her, calm and reassuring, guiding her through the busy streets. Lila could see families laughing, merchants selling goods, and children running freely. It was a stark contrast to the dark, oppressive cages she had left behind. Every sight reminded her of what she had lost, but also of what she could gain. Jack had arranged for her to have a small living space within the colony, a place where she could rest, eat, and learn about her new home without fear. Lila entered the room, taking in the simple furnishings. A bed, a table, and a chair were all she needed for comfort. She touched the walls, amazed that she was not restricted, and a tear ran down her cheek. She was finally safe. Jack stayed with her, helping her settle in. He had brought food and water, which she accepted gratefully. As she ate, she asked questions about the colony and its people. Jack explained how the colony functioned, how beings from different worlds coexisted and how they supported each other. Lila listened intently, absorbing every detail. She realized she had much to learn, and that the colony would provide a chance to understand the wider universe. The days passed slowly at first. Lila was cautious, hesitant to interact with others. She had been treated as worthless for so long that trust did not come easily. Jack understood and encouraged her gently, never forcing her into situations she was not ready for. He introduced her to a few trusted individuals, starting with Mara, a kind human woman who had experience helping rescued captives. Mara shared her own story, speaking of struggles and triumphs, and Lila felt a connection. Slowly she began to open up, sharing fragments of her life and the horrors she had endured. Speaking about her past gave her relief and a sense of being acknowledged. Jack and Lila spent long hours talking on the roof of her new home, looking out at the stars. He asked her about her planet, her dreams, and what she hoped to achieve. Lila admitted that she had always wanted to see the galaxy, but she had been trapped, powerless, and forgotten. Jack listened, nodding with understanding. He told her stories of his own travels, the dangers he had faced, and the beings he had helped. Through these conversations, Lila learned not only about the galaxy, but also about courage and resilience. Jack had faced challenges without losing hope, and she drew strength from his example. While Lila settled into her new life, news came that the slavers had not forgotten her. They had sent bounty hunters to track her down, seeking to reclaim their lost commodity. The colony was not unprepared. Jack coordinated with local security to ensure Lila's safety. The first encounter was tense. Scouts detected an incoming ship, and Jack guided Lila to a secure location. She watched as the colony's defenses activated, energy shields and patrol ships taking positions. Lila's heart raced. She had never imagined that her freedom would be challenged, but now she understood that safety was something to be protected. The bounty hunters arrived, sleek ships designed for speed and combat. Jack and the colony defenders maneuvered carefully, avoiding direct conflict but ensuring the intruders could not reach Lila. Lila, seeing Jack's skill and the support of the colony, felt her fear lessen. She realized that she was not alone. She had allies, beings who would fight to protect her. This understanding strengthened her resolve. She wanted to contribute, to show that she was more than a victim. Jack encouraged her, explaining basic defense strategies and how to support the colony without putting herself in danger. Lila practiced diligently, learning quickly and proving her capability. As weeks turned into months, Lila grew stronger and more confident. She learned to navigate the colony, interact with its residents, and perform tasks that required skill and intelligence. She worked alongside Mara and other mentors, helping newcomers adjust and sharing her knowledge of different worlds. Lila found joy in teaching and guiding others and in the small victories that marked each day. She discovered that her past, while painful, gave her unique insights that could help others avoid suffering. Her experiences were not just memories of trauma. They became tools for growth and empowerment. Jack and Lila's bond deepened during this time. They spent hours working together, strategizing to strengthen the colony's defenses and planning initiatives to help rescued captives. Jack admired Lila's intelligence, courage, and compassion. He saw how she had transformed from a scared girl into a capable and inspiring individual. Lila, in turn, respected Jack's wisdom, bravery, and unwavering kindness. Their relationship was built on mutual trust and respect, forming a foundation stronger than any chains that had once bound her. Lila also began exploring the galaxy and controlled missions with Jack. They traveled to neighboring star systems, studying trade routes, observing potential threats, and rescuing beings in need. Each journey tested her skills, patience, and courage. She faced danger but learned to rely on her instincts and training. Jack remained by her side, guiding her but allowing her to make decisions, teaching her the importance of judgment, strategy, and compassion. Lila realized that freedom came with responsibility. She was no longer just a survivor. She was a protector, a guide, and a symbol of hope. The colony thrived, and Lila's presence became integral. She initiated programs to educate and support those who had been captured or oppressed, teaching them survival skills, diplomacy, and resilience. Her voice carried weight, not because of authority, but because of the respect she had earned through action and character. Lila understood the value of empathy, recognizing that understanding and patience could change lives. She had been treated like dirt, But now she had a purpose: to lift others from despair and guide them toward hope. One evening, as the twin suns set over the horizon, Lila reflected on her journey. She thought about the cages, the chains, and the cruelty she had endured, but she also thought about Jack, the colony, and the friends she had made. Her life had been transformed by one act of kindness, one decision to save her. She realized that freedom was more than the absence of chains. It was the ability to act, to choose, and to grow. Lila vowed to use her freedom wisely, to protect, to educate, and to inspire. Jack watched her from a distance, sensing her thoughts. He knew that Lila had changed, that she was no longer the frightened girl from the cages. He admired her strength, intelligence, and compassion. They had both learned from each other, grown together, and faced challenges that tested their limits. Their journey was far from over, but they had laid the foundation for a future where freedom, hope, and courage could flourish. The colony continued to prosper, becoming a sanctuary for many beings who had suffered at the hands of slavers and tyrants. Lila's story spread, inspiring others to fight for their freedom and to seek allies who would stand with them. She became a living example of resilience, showing that even in the darkest moments, hope could survive. Lila's past never disappeared entirely, but it no longer defined her. Instead, it became the source of her strength and the guiding force behind her actions. Through all this, Jack remained a steadfast companion. Their relationship was not bound by ownership or obligation, but by trust, respect, and shared purpose. Together they faced challenges, navigated threats, and worked to ensure that no one would suffer as Lila had. They learned that courage and kindness could change destinies, and that one act of bravery could ripple across the galaxy, creating hope where there had been none. Lila had been chained and treated like dirt, but now she stood as a symbol of freedom, strength, and the power of compassion. Lila's life in the colony continued to evolve. Every day brought new challenges, opportunities, and lessons. The first months had been about adjusting, learning the ways of the colony and understanding the galaxy around her. But now, she felt a growing desire to explore beyond the safe borders, to see the world she had only dreamed of as a child. Jack noticed this spark and knew it was time for her to begin her training as a traveler and protector. Jack began teaching Lila the skills she would need for interstellar journeys. He showed her how to navigate star maps, calculate routes, and understand the mechanics of their ship. Lila absorbed each lesson with enthusiasm and determination. She was eager to prove herself, to show that she was more than a survivor, that she could face challenges head-on. Jack encouraged her, offering guidance while letting her make decisions, knowing that real learning came from experience. Their first mission together took them to a nearby star system. A distress signal had been detected from a small mining colony under attack by raiders. Jack and Lila approached the system cautiously, scanning for threats and planning their approach. Lila felt a mix of fear and excitement. The reality of danger was new to her, but she trusted Jack's skill and judgment. As they neared the colony, she saw the destruction the raiders had caused, buildings damaged, fires burning, and the frightened inhabitants hiding wherever they could. Jack instructed Lila to assist in planning a rescue operation. She quickly analyzed the situation, identifying key points where they could intervene without unnecessary risk. Her sharp mind and quick thinking impressed Jack. Together, they coordinated a plan that allowed them to reach the colonists, provide medical aid, and secure the area until local security forces arrived. Lila's confidence grew with each successful action, and she realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the ability to act despite it. Back on the ship, Jack and Lila reflected on the mission. Lila admitted that she had felt fear but also exhilaration. She understood that freedom came with responsibility, and she was beginning to embrace her role as a protector. Jack praised her for her quick thinking, resilience, and bravery. Lila felt a sense of pride, knowing she was no longer the powerless captive she had once been. The following weeks were filled with training and small missions. Lila learned combat basics, defensive tactics, and negotiation skills. She interacted with beings from other planets, learning their languages and customs. Each experience broadened her understanding of the galaxy and strengthened her sense of purpose. She realized that her past suffering gave her empathy and insight, making her a valuable ally and friend to those in need. One day, while exploring an uninhabited planet, Lila discovered a hidden cave system, She and Jack entered carefully, noting the ancient markings on the walls. The cave was vast, filled with strange crystals that emitted a soft glow. Lila felt a sense of wonder she had not experienced since her childhood on her home planet. Jack explained that some caves were sacred, containing knowledge and artifacts from civilizations long gone. Lila touched the walls, feeling a connection to the past and to the countless beings who had lived before her. The experience reminded her that the galaxy held mysteries and beauty beyond her imagination. During their travels, Lila also encountered challenges that tested her moral judgment. She met beings who were oppressed or in danger, and she had to decide how to act. Jack encouraged her to think critically, weigh options, and consider the consequences of her actions. Lila learned that leadership required more than strength. It required wisdom, empathy, and the courage to make difficult choices. Each decision shaped her character, forging a sense of responsibility and integrity. Lila's relationship with Jack continued to grow. They shared quiet moments watching stars, discussing hopes, and reflecting on their journeys. Jack admired Lila's resilience, intelligence, and compassion. He saw how far she had come from the frightened girl in chains. Lila appreciated Jack's guidance, support, and unwavering belief in her abilities. Their bond was built on mutual respect and trust, strengthened by shared experiences and challenges. They understood each other in ways words could not fully express. As they traveled to more distant systems, Lila began taking initiative in missions. She identified potential dangers, negotiated with local leaders, and helped mediate conflicts. Her reputation grew, and she became known as someone who could handle difficult situations with courage and intelligence. Lila realized that her freedom was not just about personal safety, but about using her skills to make a positive impact in the galaxy. She had transformed from a victim into a leader, capable of inspiring others. One significant mission brought them to a remote colony under siege by a band of marauders. Lila and Jack coordinated a rescue operation, guiding the colonists to safety and disabling the raiders' equipment. Lila's strategic thinking and quick action saved many lives. She learned to stay calm under pressure, to assess risks accurately, and to act decisively. The gratitude of the colonists reinforced her sense of purpose and validated her efforts. She realized that the galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but also full of beings who could be helped, protected, and inspired. Through all these experiences, Lila never forgot the lessons of her past. She remembered the darkness, the chains, and the fear, but she also remembered the hope that Jack had given her, the first spark of freedom that had changed her life. She carried these memories as a source of strength, motivating her to continue fighting for justice and helping those in need. Lila understood that her journey was not just about survival, but about creating a legacy of courage, compassion, and freedom. Jack and Lila also worked to strengthen the colony. They trained newcomers, shared knowledge about interstellar travel, and developed strategies to protect the community from future threats. Lila's experiences made her a natural mentor. She taught others to remain calm under pressure, to think strategically, and to act with courage and empathy. Her guidance helped the colony thrive, creating a safe and supportive environment for beings from diverse worlds. As months passed, Lila's confidence and abilities continued to grow. She was no longer the girl who had been captured and chained. She was a capable and respected member of the galaxy's community. Her relationship with Jack had evolved into a deep friendship and partnership. They complemented each other, combining intelligence, courage, and compassion to face challenges and make a positive impact. One evening, as they gazed at a nebula glowing in the distance, Lila reflected on her journey. She thought about the cages, the chains, and the cruelty she had endured. But she also thought about the freedom, opportunities, and friendships she had gained. She realized that her life had been transformed by one act of kindness, one decision to save her. Lila understood that freedom was more than the absence of chains. It was the ability to act, to choose, and to grow. She vowed to use her freedom wisely, to protect, to educate, and to inspire others. Jack smiled at her, recognizing the determination and strength in her eyes. He knew that Lila had changed, that she was no longer the frightened girl from the cages. He admired her courage, intelligence, and compassion. Together they had faced challenges, navigated dangers, and created a bond that could withstand any obstacle. Their journey was far from over, but they had laid the foundation for a future where freedom, hope, and courage could flourish. Lila had become a symbol of resilience and determination, showing that even in the darkest moments, hope could survive. Her past had shaped her, but it no longer defined her. Instead, it became a source of strength and a guiding force behind her actions. She understood that true freedom came with responsibility, and she embraced it fully. Lila was ready to face the galaxy, to explore its mysteries, protect the innocent, and inspire others to rise above fear and oppression. Lila had become a vital part of the colony. Her experiences, knowledge, and courage made her respected and admired. The small space she had once called home now felt like a base for her greater purpose. Each day brought opportunities to help others and to ensure the safety of those who had been through similar hardships. She worked closely with Jack, sharing strategies, coordinating training, and guiding new arrivals. Together, they became a strong team, complementing each other's strengths. One morning, alarms echoed across the colony. Sensors had detected a fleet approaching from a distant star system. The threat was unclear, but the colony could not take chances. Jack immediately gathered the security team and Lila joined him. They analyzed the incoming fleet, identifying patterns in its movement and potential weaknesses. Lila's observations were precise and insightful. She noticed details others missed, and her suggestions helped develop a defensive strategy. As the fleet neared, tension filled the air. Residents moved to safe areas while defenders prepared for possible combat. Lila stayed calm, following the training Jack had provided and applying her own instincts. She directed patrols, coordinated communication, and ensured that defenses were positioned effectively. Her focus and clarity under pressure inspired others, proving her leadership qualities. Jack observed her, impressed by how far she had come since the days of captivity. The fleet turned out to be raiders seeking resources and captives. Lila and Jack worked together to intercept them before they could reach the colony. Using clever tactics, they outmaneuvered the enemy, disabling their ships without unnecessary casualties. Lila contributed to every decision, suggesting strategies based on her knowledge of the galaxy and past experiences. The raiders, unprepared for such organized defense, retreated. The colony had been saved and the residents celebrated their safety. Lila felt pride, knowing she had played a crucial role. After the battle, Lila and Jack debriefed with the colony leaders. They analyzed the raiders' tactics, discussed improvements in defense, and planned for future challenges. Lila's input was valued and respected. She realized that her past suffering had equipped her with unique insights, allowing her to approach problems creatively and effectively. Her perspective was not shaped by fear or limitation, but by experience, resilience, and determination. Life returned to a rhythm, but Lila's responsibilities had increased. She trained newcomers, taught them survival and defense skills, and shared lessons from her own journey. Lila became a mentor, helping others regain confidence and independence. Her story inspired those who had suffered, showing them that it was possible to rise above oppression and find strength within themselves. Lila's impact extended beyond immediate tasks. She created hope and motivation for the entire colony. One day, Lila and Jack received a request for help from a distant planet. Slavers had captured beings and were keeping them in harsh conditions. Lila knew the danger, but she also knew that action was necessary. Together, they prepared for the mission, gathering supplies, analyzing star charts, and planning a careful approach. Lila felt a sense of purpose that went beyond her own life. She was acting to free others, to prevent suffering, and to make a difference. Upon arriving at the planet, Lila and Jack observed the slavers' operations. The captives were held in small, dark enclosures, much like Lila had once experienced. She felt a deep resolve to save them. Jack and Lila formulated a rescue plan, ensuring minimal risk to the captives and themselves. Lila took the lead, moving with caution, directing others and using her knowledge of security systems to disable locks and alarms. Each freed captive filled her with hope, reminding her of her own journey and the kindness that had saved her. The rescue mission was successful. Lila saw the gratitude in the eyes of those she had saved. She felt a profound connection to them, understanding their fear, pain, and relief. Jack praised her leadership, acknowledging how her courage and intelligence had made the mission possible. Lila realized that freedom was not just about her own safety, but about the ability to help others, to protect and to inspire. Back in the colony, Lila worked tirelessly to integrate the rescued beings, ensuring they felt safe, supported, and valued. She taught them basic skills, guided them through recovery, and helped them find their place in the community. Her efforts strengthened the colony, creating a network of support that extended across systems. Lila's influence was undeniable, and she became a symbol of resilience and hope. During quiet moments, Lila reflected on her journey. She remembered the darkness of the cages, the pain of chains, and the fear that had once consumed her. But she also remembered Jack's kindness, the opportunities she had been given, and the strength she had discovered within herself. She understood that her life had transformed because of courage, compassion, and determination. Lila vowed to continue using her freedom wisely, to protect the vulnerable, and to make the galaxy a safer place. Jack and Lila also explored new regions together, seeking ways to prevent oppression and injustice. They encountered new species, forged alliances, and developed strategies to maintain peace and safety. Lila's experiences and perspective were invaluable, allowing them to anticipate challenges and address them effectively. Her insight, combined with Jack's skill and leadership, created a formidable team. The bond between Lila and Jack deepened further. They shared quiet nights under the stars, discussing their dreams, fears, and the lessons they had learned. Lila trusted Jack completely, knowing he had her best interests at heart. Jack admired Lila's growth, her courage, and her unwavering dedication to helping others. Their partnership was built on mutual respect, understanding, and shared purpose. As months passed, Lila continued to expand her abilities. She learned advanced navigation, diplomacy, and tactical planning. She trained others to be self-reliant and confident, passing on the lessons she had learned through experience. Lila's influence spread, reaching beyond the colony to neighboring systems. Her reputation as a capable, intelligent, and compassionate leader grew, inspiring others to act with courage and kindness. One evening, as Lila stood on the colony's observation deck, she gazed at the stars. Each one represented possibilities, challenges, and lives that could be affected. She reflected on her journey, from captivity and chains to freedom and leadership. She understood the value of her experiences, the importance of courage, and the impact of kindness. Lila knew that the galaxy was vast and unpredictable, but she was ready to face it, using her skills, wisdom, and compassion to make a difference. Jack joined her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. They stood together in silence, contemplating the future. Lila felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that she had transformed her pain into purpose. She had been treated like dirt, chained and oppressed, but now she was a force for good, a protector, and a symbol of hope. Lila had discovered that freedom was not just about being safe. It was about using her abilities to help others, to inspire change, and to create a legacy of courage and compassion. Together, Jack and Lila looked out at the galaxy, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They understood that the journey would not always be easy, but they had the skills, determination, and partnership to overcome any obstacle. Lila's life had been transformed by one act of kindness, and now she dedicated herself to spreading that same hope to others. The chains were gone, but the strength they had forced her to find within herself remained, guiding her as she embraced her new role as a leader, protector, and beacon of hope. Lila had grown into a strong and confident leader. Her journey from captivity to freedom had shaped her into someone who inspired others. Every day, she worked to ensure the safety of the colony and the well-being of its inhabitants. She trained newcomers, coordinated missions, and helped the rescued beings adjust to their new lives. Lila's life was no longer defined by fear and chains, but by courage, responsibility, and compassion. One morning, a message arrived from a distant system. Reports indicated that a hidden slaver operation had been discovered. Lila and Jack knew this was a serious threat. They prepared for the journey carefully, gathering supplies, reviewing intelligence, and planning their approach. Lila felt the familiar mix of anticipation and determination. She had faced danger before, and she was ready to confront it again. Jack trusted her judgment and encouraged her to take the lead in planning. Upon arrival, the planet's surface appeared quiet, almost peaceful. But Lila sensed the underlying danger. She and Jack scouted the area, noting guard patterns, structures, and possible entry points. Lila's sharp mind analyzed the situation, considering all possible outcomes. She devised a strategy that would allow them to rescue captives while minimizing risk. Her confidence and careful planning impressed Jack and the team. Together, they prepared for the operation, ensuring that everyone knew their role. The mission began at dawn. Lila led the team through the perimeter, moving silently to avoid detection. She coordinated communication between the team members, giving clear instructions and adjustments as needed. Her presence was calming yet commanding, inspiring trust and focus. As they reached the holding area, Lila noticed the frightened captives chained and trembling. She felt a surge of determination to free them. Her own past reminded her of the fear and hopelessness these beings faced. Lila and Jack worked efficiently, disabling security systems and unlocking cages. The captives were hesitant at first, unsure if freedom was real. Lila spoke gently, encouraging them, explaining that they were safe now. Slowly they followed her, gaining courage with each step. The team moved carefully, escorting the freed beings to the extraction point. Lila's leadership ensured that no one was left behind, and the mission was completed successfully. During the return journey, Lila reflected on the mission. She thought about the captives' fear and relief, understanding that her actions had a profound impact on their lives. She realized that freedom was not just about herself, but about creating opportunities for others to live with dignity. Lila's journey had come full circle, from being a victim to becoming a protector and guide. Her strength and wisdom had grown through experience, and she felt ready for any challenge the galaxy could present. Back in the colony, celebrations were modest but heartfelt. The rescued beings expressed gratitude, and Lila felt a sense of fulfillment she had never known. She understood that her past suffering had given her empathy and insight, making her actions more meaningful. Jack praised her leadership, acknowledging that she had grown into a capable and inspiring figure. Lila appreciated his support but also recognized that her strength came from within. Her resilience, courage, and intelligence had allowed her to overcome every obstacle. As weeks passed, Lila continued to expand the colony's influence and safety. She trained more residents, organized patrols, and worked with neighboring systems to prevent slaver activity. Her story spread, inspiring others to take action and protect those in need. Lila had become a symbol of hope, showing that even in the darkest circumstances, courage and compassion could prevail. She remembered the days of chains and fear, but she no longer felt powerless. Instead, she had the ability to change lives. One day, while reviewing maps with Jack, Lila received a report of a distant distress signal. A planet was under threat and the inhabitants needed assistance. Lila and Jack prepared for the journey, knowing that each mission brought risks but also opportunities to help. Lila felt a deep sense of purpose as she led the team. She understood that her life was dedicated to protecting the innocent and ensuring that freedom and safety were available to all. Upon reaching the planet, they discovered a complex situation. A group of marauders had taken control of a settlement, using fear to dominate the population. Lila carefully analyzed the situation, identifying weak points and planning a strategy to minimize harm. She coordinated with Jack and the team, assigning roles and ensuring clear communication. The operation required precision, courage, and careful timing. The mission unfolded successfully. Lila led the team in freeing the settlement, providing medical aid to the injured and establishing temporary defenses. The inhabitants, previously oppressed and fearful, began to regain confidence and hope. Lila guided them, teaching strategies for self-defense and resilience. She understood that freedom required more than rescue. It required education, preparation, and empowerment. Lila's actions created lasting change, transforming lives and communities. During the return journey, Lila reflected on her growth. She remembered the fear, despair, and chains that had once defined her life. Now she was a leader, protector, and symbol of hope. Her journey had not been easy, but it had given her strength, wisdom, and purpose. Lila understood that true freedom came with responsibility, to use her abilities to protect, guide, and inspire others. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that she had turned her suffering into positive action. Back in the colony, Lila continued her work with renewed energy. She organized educational programs, taught survival skills, and coordinated defense strategies. Her influence extended to neighboring systems, creating a network of protection and support. Lila's story inspired others to act with courage and compassion, proving that even one person's determination could create meaningful change. She had transformed from a captive to a leader, and her journey inspired hope throughout the galaxy. Jack observed Lila's progress with admiration. He had witnessed her growth from the first moment he saw her in chains. Now she was a capable, confident, and compassionate leader. Their partnership had deepened into a strong bond, built on trust, respect, and shared purpose. Together they faced challenges, overcame dangers, and created a legacy of courage and hope. Jack understood that Lila's strength came not only from her experiences, but also from her determination to help others and create a better future. As Lila stood on the observation deck, gazing at the stars, she felt a sense of peace and accomplishment. She remembered the days of fear and chains, but she no longer felt powerless. Instead, she had transformed her past into a source of strength, using her experiences to guide, protect, and inspire. Lila knew that her journey was ongoing, that challenges would continue to arise, but she felt ready to face them with courage, wisdom, and compassion. The colony thrived under Lila and Jack's guidance. Freed beings lived safely, trained in skills that allowed them to protect themselves and others. Lila's programs empowered residents, creating a community built on trust, resilience, and mutual support. Her story became a legend, inspiring other colonies and systems to act with courage and compassion. Lila's life was no longer defined by chains. It was defined by her actions, her leadership, and her unwavering dedication to freedom and hope. In the quiet moments, Lila reflected on her journey. She thought about the darkness she had endured, the fear she had faced, and the chains that had once bound her. She also thought about the kindness that had saved her, the opportunities she had embraced, and the lives she had touched. Lila understood that freedom was not just about being safe. It was about using one's abilities to make a positive impact. She had transformed her suffering into strength, her fear into courage, and her past into a guiding force for others. As she stood beside Jack, watching the stars, Lila felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Her life had been changed by one act of kindness, and she dedicated herself to spreading that hope to others. The galaxy was vast and unpredictable, but she was ready to face it with wisdom, courage, and compassion. Lila had become more than a survivor. She was a leader, a protector, and a beacon of hope for all who had suffered. Her journey was a testament to the power of resilience, determination, and the impact of one person's courage in changing the world.